Money Radio, in the business of making and spending money.
Hello viewers, and welcome to another lovely edition of your favorite program on television, Money Radio, Energy Sector segment. My name is Winifred Ogbebo, and it sure feels good to be hosting you on today's edition of the program. Today is August 31st, the last day of August. And with me in the studio this afternoon is the Group Business Editor of Leadership, Ise Anthony Akupuko. It's a pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you.
Yes. On this last day, our topic is on urgent issues before the Ministers of State, Petroleum Resources. Last week, we looked at, it was the same topic we had last week, and of course, the focus was on the gas sector. On today's edition, we are going to be looking at the petroleum resources sector. Now, we have both Ministers of State for both petroleum and for gas. So, instead, we are concentrating on petroleum. What's expected of the Ministers of State? Remember, last week, Monday, the President Bola Tinubu inaugurated his cabinet, which portfolios were given to all the various ministers to handle these sectors. So, what is in it from these Ministers of State, especially from petroleum resources? What's expected of the minister?
Yeah, we would say one thing that is at the forefront of many Nigerians is availability of petrol. Not just it being available, but affordable. Because if you would ask me, you both know that the recent removal of fuel subsidy has taken the price of petrol out of the affordability level of many Nigerians. You go across the roads, you see the fewer number of cars on the road is a testament to this, that Nigerians are not finding it easy at all.
We're not finding it funny at all.
Yes, and it's not just for the lower class. Now you see many. If you've noticed, you notice that most of those people who own very high energy consuming cars, they've had to pack them.
Yes.
In fact,
I know more than one that are packed.
Many of them that the vehicle they kept at home for running errands. Those are the vehicles they've now refurbished and put back on the road. So it just goes to show that everyone is being touched by this. It's not just the lower class who have to commute and whose transportation cost has skyrocketed over the last few months. So, it actually gladdens my heart that the ministers, they came on board and they virtually hit the ground running, so to say. In the last week, with this week, we have seen the ministers undertake two visits on the spot assessment. In fact, the Minister of State for oil had said, I'm a creek boy.
Okay.
And I'm not here to sit in the office
Like
and Heineken Lokobiri, the Minister of Petroleum Resources, Oil. So he had said, I'm a creek boy. I'm not going to sit in the office and expect you to bring in reports. I'm going to go into the creek to see what is actually happening. How come we are not, Nigeria is not meeting up with the quota on crude oil production? How come that the refineries are not working, and so Nigeria is still largely depending on imports after so many years? And during the week, like I said, two on the spot assessments were done. One on the Port Harcourt refinery, and the other one, assessing the nature of oil pipelines, so as to know what to do going forward in regards to oil theft.
Okay. Now, in relationship to that, with this fuel subsidy removal, one thought that the era of free fuels was over. That era is gone. But however, just yesterday, the fuels are back, and we are hearing that because there's pipeline vandalization. Is that enough justification for fuel to return to the filling station? Or are we going to have a situation whereby the fuel will still be increased again? Because that's what we've always had. First, you see fuel building up in filling stations just before this fuel subsidy removal. and before you know what is happening, the price is hiked again. So what is happening now?
The last time, about 2 weeks or 3 weeks before now, there was that agitation, there was the speculation that fuel price was going to be increased again. And this is mainly as a result of the value of the naira to the dollar, which we have seen increasing. And then with the dollar, the naira hadn't gone as far as 900 naira to $1. The marketers were like, there is no way, and that had increased the landing cost of petrol into the country. And so the marketers were like, we are not able to, this price can't be sustained, because it's actually a pass-through cost, depending on what they are able to import at the international market and then transporting it into the country and all the attendant costs and taxes. When all of these are imputed, it constitutes the landing cost of petrol in the country, and then that determines what they are going to sell. However, while many of them were waiting on the NNPC to come out with a price, with a new price, and they would have taken their cue from that, and we would have seen further increase to the price of petrol. But I think the presidency kind of read the body language of Nigerians that it was actually not going to be easy. The Labour, they are still on the discussion table, deciding what should be done following the two last increases, the removal of petrol subsidy, and then the increase that we saw the price of petrol to 617 naira to a liter. So those ones are yet to be decided. And the issue of palliative that the presidency had talked about, it's still much of talk. It has not translated into any meaningful
impact.
Not just impact, but let's say action.
Reality.
Yes, action on the part of government to cushion the effect of these increases. But rather, contrary to expectation, the NNPC had come up to say that it's not going to increase the price of fuel. And with that, it's the problem is still there.
$3 billion.
Yes, it went borrowing, and even as we speak, because the actualization of this deal, it's not yet on the table. It's still in the works, so to say. And so while many had expected it to have immediate impact on the price of the value of the naira, that is yet to happen, because this money is not yet available. And so, of course, things seem to have returned to status quo, and the marketers are finding it difficult to get in product at that level. And because if this statement by the NNPC that it's not going to increase fuel price had been backed up by another statement, maybe from the presidency, that there's going to be some form of subsidy, like we saw in Kenya. Kenya brought about a temporary subsidy for 30 days to give itself a breather on some of the policies that it was working out for the people. Many had expected that maybe something like that would happen here, and that would have shocked the price for that time, to allow government to be able to come up with some clear-cut policy actions on what to do next. But we didn't see that happen. So who bears that pass-through cost? The marketers are still getting petrol at how they were getting it before, and then they still have to sell, and the price has increased. So who bears that extra differential cost? And so that is what we are seeing here. As a result of that, we've seen a number of marketers insist that they cannot sustain importing, and except the NNPC is able to go back to importing for the entire country, we are faced with there's every possibility that there's going to be some scarcity if there's no increase.
Because that's what we are seeing now. Now back to the Minister Heineken Nukobri's on the spot assessment visiting some states. Of course, he went to Delta too, according to reports. Now there were also reports a few days ago, that the illegal pipelines were discovered around the state. So, is there no end in sight for this oil theft?
That is the big question. Is there no end in sight? The NNPC had, contracted out pipeline surveillance to a group that is owned by governments.
The name is a long bite. You have to twist your tongue for that to tell the name.
Otherwise,
known as
Tempolo. And so that contract has elapsed, or is soon to
be elapsed, and of course there seems to be a battle between him and the others.
Should it be renewed? And a lot of the ex agitators.
Eneke Lokobrio, the minister for of state for oil, also visited Port Harcourt, and there was a statement credited to the governor that how can he give pipeline surveillance to one individual or one company to survey? And of course, that has been causing bad blood, among.
Yes, and so of course that has been the arguments amongst all the ex-agitators of So many of them are like, how come it's only one person or only one company represented by one of the warlords that got the contract? And of course, with that being the situation, these other ones who were parts of the...
However, if you recall, the former Minister of Information, Lai Mohammed, did tell us that time that 1 billion naira was budgeted annually for pipeline surveillance. That is from NNPC. So what is happening? That it was just a few days ago, I've forgotten which state, about 27 illegal pipelines were discovered. So that is what I'm wondering. So is it something that is just going to continue? And of course, prior to this time, we've had JTF also.
JTF is still operational. We had all of them, all these joint task forces,
and Navy is there,
Navy is there, and all the security apparatus being put together to bring this crude oil theft under control. But so far, Nigeria has somehow been unlucky, if I may say so, not to have had this contained. And I think now the decision lies on whether to continue with that contract the way it is or to split it. Because I would say that some of these other ones may not want one person to
benefit
having it all, and as a result they would be sabotaging his efforts. So to me, it would be better to have a consortia of all of them together doing this pipeline surveillance, if that is the way that government wants to go. And already it had set the pace by awarding the contract to one of the parties.
Okay. All right, let's go on a break. But when we come back, we see so much trending topics on the air sector for us to discuss when we come back after this short break. Don't go away.
Be part of our brand. Leadership for God and country.
Welcome back. The program is Morning Radio Energy Sector on Leadership Television. My name is Winifred Weber. Of course, I always have my in-house analyst, of course, a stakeholder in the oil or energy sector. It's Anthony Kuku, because you are an expert. It's always good to have you on the program. And just before we went on break, we'll be talking about urgent issues before the ministers of state, Petroleum Resources, talking about oil and gas. Don't forget that the ministry has been split into two, and this week's focus is on oil. Because last week we shed more light on the gas sector. Now, there was a report today that oil communities, host communities of these oil multinationals, are already worried over their 3% as enshrined in Petroleum Industry Act. What is happening?
That is one of the things that the minister needs to look critically into. I know before the PIA was signed, a lot of back and forth have gone on. The host communities had said that 3% is actually not enough.
Yes.
And they have looked at it vis-a-vis the fact that the same PIA had allocated 30% for exploration and all of that. However, the explanation then, and that is what was passed, is that the 3% could actually be more than the 30%, in that it is 3% of the operational profit of all the companies, multinationals operating in the country. And so
why the 30% is after profit?
Yes. So it's actually not from the oil companies, but from the NNPC's operation alone. So that's been the case. A lot of the midstream, the Nigerian Upstream Regulatory Commission has also gone on to launch many funds. As at the last count, 79 of these host community trust funds had been constituted, and the funds are not, because the funds are to go into those trusts, they are not to be paid directly maybe to some individuals. It's to be held in a trust fund. So the first thing is to have all the trust funds constituted, and then before the fund can be, maybe it is those processes that is delaying. And then let's not forget that the fund, it's not a cost that is calculated on a monthly basis. It's something that is calculated on an annual basis, because the companies calculate their operational cost and their profit and loss and all that on an annual basis. So let's say how many years the PIA was launched, was passed in 2021 August. So when was the next? Let's just say between then and now.
No, we're having about 2 years now.
2 years. However, 2 years of the operators, we've only had 1 full year of the operators' operations done. So this is the second year. The second year is yet to elapse. So they would have, by now, the first year's profit, 3% of the profit should have been paid. I don't know. That is what needs to be looked into to find out, has any money been remitted, and if it has been remitted, what are the funds programmed to do. And one thing here is that the host communities need to be completely in the know. We cannot have a situation like we've had this opacity in the oil and gas sector, whereby operators and those involved do not know what is happening. So if this fund has been duly constituted, and the NUPRC has set up trust funds, so it's now for the minister to oversee this and ensure that the trust funds are there, the monies are, the right amounts are accrued into those funds and they are being administered the way it should be administered, not at the expense of some few people at the top who are benefiting, while those at the bottom who really feel the brunt of this oil companies' work are left with nothing. If you go to those places, in fact, you will really weep for a lot of them, because their whole source of livelihood have been eroded. They cannot fish, they can't farm, and even the water is, they can't drink those waters and all that. So something needs to be done critically and urgently to ensure that those people, they are compensated for the use of all those, the way their land is being used and all that. So it's an area that an urgent issue before the Minister of State, Petroleum Resources, Oil, to check and ensure that this agitation, and you know one thing, the major decision behind this is that when the host communities are treated well and they are okay, they themselves, they will be the ones policing the pipelines and ensuring that they safeguard it, nothing happens to them, because when they are not crude cannot, the actual crude that is explored cannot be sold, and then resources, revenues generated, it will affect what comes to them at the end of the day.
You are right, because there's a clause that if their pipelines are damaged, if the host communities, the multinationals can also actually play a fast one, go and damage their pipelines and blame it on
of course, and at the end of the day, so it's now is a mutually situational, yes, where both of them should be policing each other, ensure that at the end of the day each one gets what should have come to them. So and that is why the minister must ensure that this is handled accordingly to.
I like how you put it, Lisa. They are going to actually be mutually guiding each other, but at the end of the day, the host community's 3% is at stake. If you venture anything happens to the pipelines,
have vandalized, and then the companies say they did not realize so much,
and it's the host communities that vandalized their pipeline. Now, thank you so much. Now, talking about opacity, which you mentioned, what is Mr. going to do? Because NNPC's operations is still shrouded in opacity, that is misery. What is it? NPIA is already in act, is already working. So the first is to how do you call it, unbundle, and they've already done that. So of course you are going to sell the shares to the public. What is it going to be done?
I think it is the selling of the shares, privatizing the shares that will really, really open the books of NNPC to the public. Because right now, until that is done, and those who are coming in begin to ask pertinent questions and demand answers.
Don't forget that state governors are also board of directors.
Yes. So each state is a shareholder. So, and then by the time, but however, it's still government. But when private sector is built to come in, there's going to be a difference.
It's not going to be business as usual.
It's not going to be business as usual. And especially if there's going to be a single majority investor in it, they want to know everything broken down. So that is what Nigerians are really waiting for, to have this issue of the bureaucratic the opacity that, as the NNPC has used in dodging so many things. In fact, many of the contracts that are signed, we don't even get to know the details, and so these are things that we don't know. We just have to take them by their word that it's for the benefit of Nigerians, and who knows. So the privatization of NNPC, it's going to be for the benefit of Nigerians as well, and that is something that the minister has to fast track and ensures that it happens sooner than later.
Thank you so much for that. Instead, just before we go, I mentioned earlier that like the queue is coming gradually to our police station. So what can be done actually to get rid of all this?
Like we've always said on this program, that Nigeria is still importing petrol. It's not sustainable. Nigeria cannot continue to import petrol when so much of it is demanded for use in country. And the minister, like I said at the beginning, went on the spot site inspection of the Port Harcourt refinery, and came up with another timeline for it to begin production. He said by December, Port Harcourt should begin to produce. We've had a lot of missed timelines for it to come back on stream. So one thing here is hope the way the minister has said it, that will happen. And then
so we should hold the minister by his word.
Yes, by its word. And the media, being the
watchdog of society,
should ensure that it keeps its role on, so that once, if the refineries are working, there will be at least that will be some, even though not much, that will be some liters less to import. And then the issue of modular refineries. The modular refineries, some of them have been given licenses. Those ones, they can refine petrol that some communities can use up. So it's not everything that is imported that will have to go to every part of the country. So this could also ease the pressure for importation of petrol. Some of the modular refineries or operators have been agitating that they don't get crude oil, that they don't receive crude to refine, and that is an issue. So
why are they not getting crude to refine?
The NUPRC came up to defend that, saying that the domestic crude allocation, they always get it. So if NUPRC is saying what has been in the law to be allocated for local refining, they always get it. You mentioned that about 3 of them got close to 4 million,
and yet the units are not
barrels in about 3 years. And so I really don't know who is not saying the truth here. But whatever be the case, it means that these knotty issues have to be resolved so that the price, the petrol can be available and affordable. You know what I've seen? The NNPC is actually doing a promo right now, and I'm like, NNPC doing a promo that when you buy petrol, you paying with some card, you'll be able to get some incentive. And I'm like, this is a first. And another thing I've also noticed is that some of the independent marketers are selling fuel below what an NPC is selling. Have you noticed?
But how true is that? Because I actually had a guest in one of my programs, and the guest raised questions over it. That of course, that was how I personally stopped buying from those police stations.
Yes, of course. I have noticed it's not just one. A number of the independent marketers are actually selling 2 naira below what the NNPC is selling. And so I'm like, wow, this is good. Before now, when NNPC was the sole importer, we saw the others selling above the price of NNPC. But now we're seeing NNPC or other ones competing and selling below. So it's actually a good thing. It's only to ensure, like I said, that those knotty, unresolved issues are tackled, so that the marketers can freely get the petroleum, whether they are importing or they are sourcing it from the local refineries, which will be even better for the economy.
All right, thank you so much. That was quite exhaustive. It's always a pleasure to have you on the program. It's the group business editor of Leadership Media Group. Plus, he's an in-house analyst. My name is issues before the ministers of state for petroleum resources, oil and gas. My name is Winifred Webo. Until I will come your way with a fresh title, same time next week. Remain blessed. Bye.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship,